Welcome to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25 Media. We feature top founders, executives, and business leaders from all over the world.
Chad Franzen here, co-host for this show where we feature top restaurateurs, investors, and business leaders. This is part of our Spot On series. Spot On has the best-in-class payment platform for retail, and they have a flagship solution called Spot On Restaurant, where they combine marketing, software, and payments all in one. They've served everyone from larger chains like Dairy Queen and Subway to small mom-and-pop restaurants. To learn more, go to spoton.com. This episode is brought to you by Rise 25. We help B2B businesses to get ROI, clients, referrals, and strategic partnerships through done-for-you podcasts. If you have a B2B business and want to build a great relationship with clients, referral partners, and thought leaders in your space, there's no better way to do it than through podcasts and content marketing. To learn more, go to rise25media.com or email us at support@rise25media.com. Stephen Gardner is founder at QSR Franchise Development Group. He has over 25 years of franchise development experience and has represented almost 100 brands, including Chock Full of Nuts, Original Soup Man, Energy Kitchen, 16 Handles, Stewart's All-American, and many others. He has been responsible for over 1,000 franchise locations as an independent consultant and outsourced director of franchise development. Thanks so much for joining me, Stephen. How are you today?
Oh, very well, Chad. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm also pleased to be joined by Anthony Leone. Hey, Anthony, I introduced Stephen. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely, Chad. Name is Anthony Leone. I've been in a restaurant field my whole life. Graduated from Florida International University. Became a district manager at a very young age at Boston Market. Then I combined my knowledge of quick service restaurants and my passion for health and fitness. And I was the founder of Energy Kitchen, where we steamed, baked, and grilled everything. Nothing was fried. Everything was under 500 calories. We got that brand. We built them out through non-traditional sites, corporate sites, and franchises. We partnered up with Steve at Energy Kitchen for the development piece. About 5 years ago, Steve and I rolled out QSR Franchise Development Group to help emerging brands, scale anywhere between, 1, 2, or 5 locations. That is really our sweet spot.
Yeah, Stephen, how did you get into franchise development?
Yeah, so about almost 30 years ago, I guess at this point, I worked for a startup company called Franchise Consultants of America. It was a very successful commercial real estate developer that I had known from a previous life. And he had decided to kind of switch careers. Moving on from commercial real estate was having a lot of difficulty in those years. And he started this company. We wound up having 30 consultants. And we represented at that particular time over 100 franchise brands, both in the restaurant service world, almost any hotels, anything that you can think of. And I kind of, learned my way through the business at that point. It was only 3 years that we were active, but he spent a lot of money. He was a big spender and a big player. And we learned a lot. It just didn't survive the market at that point. And after that, I just continued to do what I had done there independently. So it was great education for me. I also started a franchise resale development program there when I was there, and I continued to do that afterwards as well, which was really ahead of the market. There are bigger companies that came after us, FranNet, FranSource, Entrepreneur Source rather, that are existing today, but we really were the forerunner of all of that. We had no competition at that point. So.
Can you give me a broad view of the services that QSR Franchise Development Group provides that help develop and successfully manage a franchise?
Yeah, and a great question. So we really take the brands pretty much from inception. So any emerging brand that is going to need resources to develop beyond their 1 or 3 or 5 units. We provide all of the services from operations manuals, training manuals, legal resources, taking them through that documentation process. And then once that's occurred, we provide a lot of strategic consulting for growth and expansion, taking them through the sales and development, marketing cycle, and even towards the real estate site selection process. So we're really we're really a full service outsourced resource for emerging brands in lieu of them having to hire internally until they really have those infrastructures in place to service the growth. We provide that bridge from very efficiently and economically from inception to as far as they want to take us. And I have many brands that I've taken through the whole process and continue to sell for many 5, 6, 7 years later. Sometimes at that point they'll hire internally, and that's great too. But we just try to provide that strategic bridge for growth for these emerging brands. There's a lot of consulting that Anthony and I provide to make sure they grow efficiently and successfully and as safely as possible. So,
what are some of the most important elements that go into the franchise development piece, just that part, and how do you guys help?
Sure. Well, Anthony, you want to hit on your side for a minute, and then I'll take it from there.
Sure. Operationally, a lot of emerging brands, Chad, don't have the infrastructure to scale or even know what it takes to scale a brand. So we really go in, we do a full analysis first to see if they're a franchise. They need to they need to have systems in place. If they don't, we can build them. And then we look at them and work with their leaders operationally, like Steve said before, through manuals to make it a very systematic process so they could take their units and, scale them and grow their brand, in the States and then moving further, internationally sometimes.
What kind of systems are we talking about?
So, go ahead. So really, we're talking about everything from the creation of these manuals, their operations and training programs. We help them to create a Discovery Day deck presentation. We'll work on their website to provide more content on that website that's more meaningful for future franchisees. We start to talk about marketing and lead generation and what that's going to look like. We give them a very realistic, help them to provide a realistic budget for future expansion. Some of our competitors or some others in the industry are very good at what they do, but the budget isn't really clearly established, and it becomes kind of sticker shock for some of these emerging brands. Once they've got the document, the money still has to be spent in order to grow the brand. And one of the major, I think, reasons that brands don't develop is because of the capital restrictions and the cash flow that just isn't there for that expansion or for a realistic expansion.
So what kind of goes into branding and marketing when something is just starting? How do you guys, maybe provide insight that just your average restaurateur wouldn't be able to have when they're just getting going?
I'll let Anthony hit on that one too.
Sure. As far as the branding piece, we really look at, what their logo is, their tagline, really what they want to get out in the marketplace, their message points, Chad. We look at, let's say, their trademarks and make sure that they're legally, up to par with our lawyers that we work with at QSR Franchise Development Group to make sure that they're really all set up, to franchise their business.
What goes into establishing the culture of a franchise? You can kind of feel a certain vibe when you walk into it. Even if it's a large chain, it has a certain vibe compared to another one. What goes into establishing that? Yeah,
that's a great question. I'm sure we can both jump in on that. But I think the culture starts at the top, right? That you're following the founders. And if the founders have a clear mission statement and clear culture of franchisees that are going to be good brand partners for them, then that translates all the way down through the company, or it should. And so we help to stress the importance of having that mission statement, having a cultural fit for your franchisees, and making sure that you choose the right brand partners. Because if you don't, it's not going to work, especially in the beginning. Every brand partner has to be a team player and fit the culture. So the Discovery Days are helpful in that respect. Everybody gets to meet each other, feel each other out, see if they are a right fit as best as possible over those 2 hours of a Discovery Day. So I find that to be a real deal maker or a deal breaker at the end of the day.
When you say it starts at the top, what are some qualities or characteristics that the person at the top should have in order to establish a great culture that makes it a great place?
Yeah, Chad, I would say a clear sense of direction, know exactly where they want to go with the brand. So if you have tenets of the brand, so every decision that is made needs to go in that direction, as far as the morals and the values that they want to portray. So as far as, let's say, energy level, feel, look, vibe, the type of employee that they're looking for, it all goes in with those tenets as the founder and the C-suite leaders look to expand that brand.
Can one of you give me an example of a brand that really utilized your services? And maybe you can tell me, you probably put them through the whole process. Tell me what you did for them and then how they benefited from your guys' services.
Good question. What example should we give, Anthony? There are several that we're working with now that are very emerging. So we have a great brand out of Long Island, which is vegan based, called Plantwise. Two great young entrepreneurs that had a really raw product in development. But we really started from scratch with them. So we're just working on their manuals at this point, and we had a lot of time to consult with them on every aspect of franchising. So in our programs, usually for a brand like that, run about 6 months. So during the course of that 6 months, we review everything. We review their goals, we review their training, their operations manuals, their menus, their inventory procedures, their food costs, everything. And then we get into as we move further along and we refine the document with the attorneys, we're constantly providing business advice, and all of the items that go into the franchise disclosure document are 50% legal and 50% business decisions. So we really help to get through all of those variable choices of business decisions. How much should the franchise fee be? What should the royalty be? Where are you going to target market the brand? What states? Why? Right? What's the budget for marketing moving forward? What's the expectation for sales as you become a franchise? Try to align all of that information, listen to what they're concerned about, what their issues are, what they're concerned about, what they're afraid of. And we really take them step by step through that entire process.
How much input or advice do you give in terms of location or real estate? And how important is that?
Incredibly important. And I am partners, and our team are partners with Sabre Real Estate in Long Island. So I'm very friendly with the founder there and partners in other businesses, but they traditionally have been the go-to. We typically offer our franchisors a choice from every category, from 3 different attorneys. They pick marketing, they pick real estate, they pick. We provide great resources for multiple service companies in all of those avenues, and then together we pick. But real estate's incredibly important, and I have often been the outsourced director of real estate for some of these companies as well. I started in commercial real estate, and that experience has helped me enormously. And Sabre provides a great alignment for us, and they're national now, so we're able to cover pretty much any market in the country that we would be servicing for our franchisors.
Can you give us any tips on real estate? Is it good to be surrounded by a bunch of competitors? Is it good to be out on your own? Do you have any little advice?
Great question. It really is brand dependent, but it is good to be among competitors. And if you're a strong brand, you want to see that there's a market there for sit down Italian, or for vegan, or for Asian food. I've had a lot of Asian brands, and the Asian brands initially want to locate in markets that have strong Asian population, which limit the expansion. But then many of them also want to translate into the mainstream. So that's a tightrope in that you can't just focus on Asian communities, or you're going to be just that limited Asian brand. But if you want to go mainstream, you have to work your way into markets that at least are familiar with what you're serving and would accept it as a product, and then grow from there. But we identify territory and a roadmap and try to do a market analysis of all of the markets that these brands are most likely to start to expand to. And they're usually or suggested to be initially within a 3 or 4 hour drive time of where their headquarters are, where their landmark locations are, so that they have the ability to service them initially as well. So if you open, a unit in Las Vegas and one in Colorado and one in Texas and one in New York, and those are your units, it's very difficult to get any market penetration. You suffer from a lack of support from corporate, and support is critical. And we do stress that through all the consulting that we do. If you're not going to support or be able to support your franchise community, it's not going to work.
How has COVID impacted QSR and what you guys do?
COVID's been a roller coaster, in my view. I mean, initially on, it was just lights out for 6 months. There really was very little that we could do. All the brands were struggling to survive, and of course we have mostly emerging brands, so they didn't have a lot of resources to rely on. Their primary thoughts were keeping the doors open, and as were many much bigger operators and restaurateurs. So very challenging through COVID. We participated in a lot of online events, kind of regrouped ourselves, and just tried to provide services that were geared towards COVID in helping restaurateurs, whether it was what are your resources for funding, how to try to maneuver the PPP loans that were, and the restaurant loans that were available to restaurants, what challenges and time that it would take to do that. And then eventually, helping to in some instances consult them on how changing that sit down, if they had 5,000 square foot sit down restaurants, in some cases, or 3,000, those were the hardest hit in many respects, unless they could pivot to pickup and delivery. And what is that going to look like? And eliminating your alcohol, because you couldn't serve alcohol at a sit down. So how do you push that takeout and delivery to make up for that? And some were hugely successful and others weren't. But that's what you had to do to survive COVID.
Chad, what we noticed real quick is also, too, the bigger footprint restaurants, the full service restaurants, were calling us up and asking us to make a smaller QSR footprint. So now we have a whole program that really runs that. People weren't looking to sit down in full service restaurants prior, with the seating capacities being limited. And so they pivoted a lot of them and wanted to build out quick service concepts based off their full service concept. So we were able to help a number of brands with that.
So did you guys have to kind of adjust on the fly then in terms of helping them with those specific things?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I mean, we had the experience of working with both, separately. So now it was a matter of helping the larger footprint restaurateurs transition. And we have several projects now where that's exactly what we're doing. And even though COVID hopefully is behind us, or who knows now, but it apparently will be somewhat behind us and continue to do so. The trend now is to move away from those large footprints. So anybody out there now that has that 4,000 or 5,000 square foot model is going to also offer, if they're small, going to also offer a 2,000 square foot scaled down, more quick service opportunity, because that's going to be the way of the foreseeable future for restaurants, I think.
Yeah, you both have long histories in terms of franchise development. How has it changed, Stephen, since you started Franchise Concepts International in 2000?
Yeah, so it's the technology. What really blows me away beyond anything else is really the technology and all of the how all of that technology has changed, from the menu boards to the the POS systems to the contactless pickups and all of the things that the apps as well, and the delivery and the order online apps and all of that technology has been really impressive. If I really think back to what it was like before and now, it's an incredible change. And Anthony, being a little bit younger, would probably agree, but he doesn't go back as far as I do to remember some of those systems the way they were in those days.
I know when the internet first, most restaurants probably didn't have their own website. I don't know, until 10 years into the
Right.
before the internet became established. What was life like then, when the internet was a non-factor compared to now?
Well, I mean, again, everything changes, even from the sales perspective. I mean, you had to physically drive to your meetings, right? And you had to meet your prospects wherever they were. So, you'd have a 2-3 hour drive for a meeting. Could never be done. There was no Zoom calls at that point. So it was all a matter of face to face networking, conventions. And, they still play a very important role, and I would miss them. And I still think they're extremely significant. They haven't been replaced. I think that, and maybe after COVID, they're going to be more significant when all the dust settles, because you can do a lot with a Zoom call. You can do a lot with a conference call, but there's nothing quite like face-to-face meetings, at least from my perspective, to really, understand who you're going to be working with, the body language. Just you don't get the same feel that you do from a Zoom call as you do in a face-to-face meeting, or in a restaurant meeting, or at a convention, at a bar. It's just different.
Is there something that each of you is most proud of in terms of what you guys have been able to do with QSR up to this point?
I'm going to let Anthony go first. I have to think about that a bit.
Just, the overall program, it gives us great sense of satisfaction, because I could speak personally. I was there as a founder of a concept and seen multiple concepts grow throughout my career. Just taking entrepreneurs that have a great idea, that want to scale their business and grow their business, but Chad, they just don't know where to start. So we walk them through the whole program. We're very accessible. We take them, as Steve was saying prior, into each category: operations, training, marketing, real estate, any of the aspects, financial, legal, and walk them through it, be a source of being a mentor towards them. And then we really enjoy going on the journey with them. We just don't want to, get them set up into franchising and then leave. We love to be a part of as they grow. And then we get into the sales process and, be that outsourced franchise sales person to walk them through that whole process, as Steve was saying before, discovery days, meeting the client, vetting the client, having them, having the potential franchisee jump through a couple of hoops before they meet the franchisor, to make sure that they're the right fit for that concept.
And I think for the franchisors that we find and create, we're trying to really be transparent with them and honest. And so we've made all the mistakes. We've seen every mistake. We continue to see them over our careers. So we give them that roadmap that's going to circumvent a lot of those errors, and that's going to also be most cost efficient for them. And whatever they would need in the franchise world, even if it was something that we don't have an immediate answer to, we're going to find it. And so that it's a one-stop shop in the true sense, that there's nothing from beginning to end that we really haven't done or haven't seen. And if it's even out of the box, we have the resources to find it. and they can trust that we're going to be honest and straightforward about it, whatever the costs are, and give them options. Right? It's not you have to use this guy, you have to use this service. This is what's out there that we have used, that we believe in. You will go through it with you. Together, we'll pick what's the right fit for you. So it's a very customized program. It's not a churn and burn. We're not in there to make a quick dollar. We make slow dollars, and we make happy emerging brands for the most part.
I have one last question for you, but first, tell me how people can find out more about QSR Franchise Development Group.
Well, Anthony, they could go on our website, right? They will see us on social media. They can go to QSR franchisedevelopmentgroup.com and find us that way. They can find our homepage on LinkedIn as well. Those would probably be the best avenues.
Okay, last question for both of you. What, if any, are some books that you guys have really found valuable or that you've enjoyed reading, or maybe a podcast that you've enjoyed listening to?
Anthony, you go first. I know you probably have a whole slew of those.
I mean, there's so many, Chad. I'm very big into personal development and love that whole space. Okay. I would say maybe one book that, I could recommend that franchisees read is The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. He really walks through an idea of someone having a great recipe of something and trying to franchise that business or build that business, and how they have sort of, let's say, animosity because they just love that one recipe and they don't understand all the aspects of the business, the accounting of it, the stuff that you really dislike doing, so that is one book that I would definitely highly recommend.
I like the story, the McDonald's story. And I think that, it's a movie now as well, too. But that really takes you through the voyage from, inception of an iconic brand and all the challenges that he encountered along the way. And I think that's inspirational for an emerging brand. And of course, they were just a couple of units, the brand that developed their stories about Subway as well, too, are very compelling. And I got to know that company pretty well, and the founders. And, look, they started in their garage making sandwiches. So they're true American dreams at that point, and they turned into reality. So I think that's something inspirational for an emerging brand to say what can happen.
Sure. Okay. Well, hey, very nice. Hey, I appreciate both of you guys' time today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been great hearing from you and great hearing your insights. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having us, Chad.
We appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So long, everybody.
Thanks for listening to the Top Business Leaders Show, powered by Rise 25. Visit rise25.com to check out more episodes of the show and to learn more about how you can start your own podcast.